As we are about to start our study today, as always, we started with the message today from the book Green Light by André Luiz, entitled the message Sensitivity.
Do not allow susceptibilities to disturb your heart. Allow other people to think freely as much as you are free to think. Each person sees life's problems from a different point of view. Very often, a diverse opinion to yours could be very helpful in your business or private life, as long as you are inclined to examine it. Sensitivity destroys the best relations of friendship. He who complains worsens difficulties. Do not cultivate resentments. To be sensitive is the best way to miss the best opportunities in life. Do not annoy yourself, but cooperate. He who spends life hurting himself ends up as a thorn bush.
In that way, we start our meeting with our harmonization in this loving ambient where we find ourselves, prepared by those who anticipated us, the Enlightened Spirits, our friends, who are with all of us here, ourselves and all of those in His Spirit who also are with us, for this unique opportunity in our lives to study Spiritism, which inspires us our lives. As immortal beings as we all are, beings essentially of love, who are learning to love ourselves, learning to love others, as we are all under the law of love, which is the law of God. And in that way united as brothers and sisters in humanity and guided by the superior light which enlightens us all, Jesus. Under His name, His blessings, His peace, light and love in our hearts and minds, we start our study today. So be it. May we all feel welcome, all of us who are here, incarnates, and all of those in the Spirit who are with us, and all of those who may be following us through the live transmission. We are united under the banner of peace, light, and love, and as beings in evolution, we propose here to study about the Spiritism, which is a message that inspires our lives as immortal beings, as mentioned. And today, our studies or our reflections will be based on the title, Mental Addictions, Dissatisfaction. Of course, under the title, Mental Addictions, there are different aspects that we will be reflecting on. Today, we will focus on the aspect, dissatisfaction. How can we relate mental addictions to satisfaction or satisfaction to mental addictions?
We can become addicted, for me, when I think about dissatisfaction, to be ungrateful, and for this reason, everything that happens is a reason for me to complain, so that's why I have this addiction, and dissatisfaction become a part of my life.
Okay, so in that reasoning, addiction means the vices that we have developed, and now we can learn how to change that. Mental, what is coming to our minds when we read mental addictions?
Our thoughts.
Our belief systems, our thoughts, the way that we think, consciously or unconsciously, yes? When we depart from this reflection and think in a broader perspective, in general, when people are unhappy, are they having dissatisfactions or not within their unconscious or conscious reality?
Yes.
Yes, because when we become aware of our mental addictions, in this case here, the dissatisfactions, the aspects, the conditions, and we promote them, we change them, in that way we are becoming more fulfilled and therefore happier. In that way we start today our study, Mental Addiction, Dissatisfaction, from the book Self-Discovery and Inner Search, from the benefactor Spirit Joana de Angelis. And she starts by saying, there is an urgent need of reprogramming the mind, Automatisms can take place in circumstances such as habits long maintained, addictions of all forms maintained for a long time, psychological accommodations to events and attitudes justified by the ego's mechanisms of evasion. What is now coming to our minds? When we read, when we heard that, as we are all invited to participate and cooperate, how can we translate this sentence within our own understanding?
I think the urgency is for us to realize we never stop thinking. And like we studied the week before, to recycle this subconscious, because when she says there is an urgent need to reprogram the mind, it means the mind is constantly full. We need to ask, full of what? And if we take into consideration we are immortal spirits, we just started. We are evolving, but we just started to be in contact with what is good. There is a lot we need to reprogram.
Correct. And also what Joanna said, apart from what you said, there is an urgent need of reprogramming the mind. The urgent need is because of what? Why would Joanna de Angelis say in mental addictions, dissatisfaction, why would she start to say there is an urgent need of reprogramming the mind?
I see it because it's the only way for us to be satisfied.
Yes, it's the only way. An urgent need, I think she departs from the idea that we, immortal beings, children of God, but we are quite ill spirits on earth. We are quite dissatisfied with ourselves. And that has to do with what we learned and carry on our mental state of mind, yeah? So it's urgent that we engage in this reprogramming of mind, engaging in reprogramming our belief systems according to the natural laws. Because we all think, as you rightly said, we all learn to think. But the question is what I'm thinking. So that is urgent in terms of us grow, to evolve, to progress, and therefore create and develop a more healthier state of mind, a happier way of living, according to the natural laws. Then we actualize ourselves. Anything else? Because you mentioned here about the automatisms. That reminds us to the theory of reincarnation, isn't it? Because we believe that we are immortal beings. What we carry today is not only what we learned in this existence, but we carry automatisms from previous existence for centuries and centuries ago. And when she started to say reprogramming, is because that reaches that unconscious level when we start a reprogramming process on the conscious level. Yeah? So that we override our old memory. And memory here, we don't talk about the cerebral memory only on the physical body, but we are talking about the perispiritual memory, where we, as immortal beings, where we are not the physical body, where we are free from the physical body, or a perispirit takes with the spiritual memory. And when we do it now consciously, engage in reprogramming, that affects not only on the conscious level, but also on the perispiritual level. Then she carries on by saying, when the mind is ready, it seems as if everything else is ready too. That happens, for instance, because critical sense, evaluation, and discernment depend on the mind. While the mind is numb or immature, it does not get the existential purpose and adapts itself to the usual things, automating it. How is that coming to us when we read and when we hear? What do we have to say?
I like the second part when she says that happens, for instance, because critical sense, evaluation, and discernment. Because when I went to university, I studied it. They considered us to be all rational. We are all rational. We make the best decisions ever. But then, closer to the last year, they said, no, this is not the case. No, there are other schools who think different. We are not that rational. We don't make the best decisions. But I think if we think, okay, I need to make a decision, I need to be critical, I need to study, I need to evaluate what are my options and what will be the impact for me, not only in this existence, but in the other ones of certain habits we have. If we really do this, we can make a lot of change. And if it's very difficult to look within to find what we need to change, we can look outside, start from outside. For example, what are the TV programs that are most on TV. And why is that? Is it because people want to see that? So I need to ask, but is it good for me? Not because it's there, it means I need to watch. Or everything that is offered for us in society, we need to ask, why is it being offered? Because there is a demand for it. But does it mean it's good for me?
Is the major question for us to ask, why is it there? Or is the major question to ask for us, is that relevant in my life?
As well.
Because it's important that we depart from here, because there is everything. When I say there, I mean outside. But what is relevant for me? So when we go back here, what you said, critical sense. But can we understand critical sense in different ways? Which different ways are those?
I think one good way is to be critical in a sense is to have a reference point in our case, and the gospel or Jesus, the laws, the natural laws, and then we can be critical, we can analyze it this way, but we have a reference.
Yes, the critical here has nothing to do in terms of being criticizing people and situations, yes, because she carries on. For instance, it's because critical sense, evaluation, and discernment depend on the mind. That means depend on the spirit, how far we evolved within the natural laws. Correct? We need to develop the critical sense. But the critical sense is more in terms of judging what is relevant in our lives or not, according always to the natural laws and not according to what is transitory. Because that can change quite a lot. Is that making sense? So in the most simple things on daily basis, that discernment or that level of evaluation or that aspect of learning to be critical, being more wise and more aware, that we can train on daily basis everywhere where we are.
I remember one day when we started the mediumship course, someone told you that she was looking for answers. Then you said, do you know the questions? And then I think I said, and I stopped thinking, because I said that sometimes I'm looking for answers, but I don't know the questions for the answers I'm looking for. And then I start to think as well. And as something for us to use, we can read the Spirit's book and learn to make questions with Kardec, because he's very critical in this sense of reflection.
Yes, but again, we bring that as a whole habit, as we understand that we are immortal for many centuries and centuries. We haven't been stimulated to think for ourselves. It was always like sitting there and someone was telling to us, and the maxim they say yes, yes. So we weren't stimulated to think for ourselves. That's quite new. And that is what Spiritism is, a strong point of Spiritism, which is inviting all of us to think for ourselves, not to learn to think, to be critical about people, because that is selfishness or pride or vanity, but be critical in terms of discernment to develop, because discernment is a virtue. And then if you go reflecting further, I presented that on Wednesday, when Immanuel says that we sometimes go around and ask questions, but we forget that the answers are within. Because within Spiritism, we bring the natural laws within. But I repeat again, all of us, we haven't been stimulated much in that way. And now we are a bit lost, isn't it? But we are in the right way. Okay, then moving on here. Would you like to read it for us?
As the mental field expands, it becomes easier to activate neural that favor memory, and the exit lapses through the freeing of negative logs that blur it.
Okay, let's explain that. Let's reflect. How do we understand this aspect within mental addictions, dissatisfaction? As the mental field expands, it becomes easier to acquire new insights. What do we understand with that phrase? What does Joanna de Angelis mean when she says as the mental field expands? It becomes easier to acquire new insights. Sounds very easy, but she's presenting, isn't it? But what is she mention? What she means when she says as the mental field expands?
We need to get rid of the trash, the psychological trash.
Okay. Okay.
And then
Please to come in.
it will become
We left there for your children if they want to sit there. If she wants to sit there.
Thank you. Don't want to.
Please come in. Hello. Welcome. Please to come in.
Could be when you develop our spiritual abilities or something.
When we develop the spiritual abilities. We are studying about Spiritism. I don't know if that's something that you learned already, you are aware.
Sorry, could you repeat
We are
that?
studying Spiritism.
Yes.
And you are welcome to question, to engage in our studies, which is a very interactive study. So, Cynthia, you were about to say something.
Yes, and even at work, sometimes I think if I have a clear thought, a clear mind, it's easier for me to get the tasks done. But if there is too much negative thoughts, everything becomes more difficult.
Okay, correct. When we say then as the mental field expands, I think this, the Joanna Janges means when we, as a natural process through the law of evolution, become more aware, when we become more conscious, are we not expanding our awareness in relation to ourselves, in relation to the options that we have, it becomes easier to acquire new insights. As more as we declutter ourselves, psychically speaking, let's put it like that, we become more clear and becomes easier to absorb the new ideas and new possibilities. Yes? And then she says that favors memory and exceeds lapses due to the freeing of negative loads that were it. So it's the negativity that you mentioned. As more as we perceive through self-awareness or negative aspects or shadows or limitations that we all have, and we choose freely now to restructure in that way, we cleanse, we open new space in our psyche. We feel lighter. Then the next one, carry on, she says, self-depreciation is a preponderant factor for unhappiness of personal and relationships with others due to this disrespect to ourselves. Whoever underestimates himself overvalues others, and that induces inadequate confrontations with oneself and others. The person projects their own shadows. This individual has a distorted, ill criteria of evaluation. How is that connected or related with our title, mental addictions, dissatisfaction? How do we understand that?
We can also be, due to very low self-esteem, be mentally addicted to always put ourselves
down. Which way could we be putting ourselves down? Perhaps I could be doing that without being aware. So teach me, what would be my ways that I would putting myself down or would deal with low self-esteem, which I'm not aware?
When I think I'm not good enough to do certain tasks.
Correct. When I think that I'm not good enough to do certain tasks, which are the belief systems that represent or manifest our low self-esteem? I cannot do that. It's too difficult for me. When we think or talk about that other people are better than we are in a negative way, when we put ourselves very negative, limited. And why is that? Why may I have those belief systems? If I was and we are created by God, simple and ignorant, where is these references coming from?
Sometimes it's conditions, like if you're young and they keep telling you, you have, let's say, a child said to a mother that she wants to do this, and there was this, you have to study a lot, only clever people go that. Then another thing, oh my God, probably that's not too much. Even though often parents do this to motivate you or to show you that actually you have to work hard. At the beginning, sometimes they put into like
pressure.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not good enough. Yes, I think the intention may be good, but the direction is wrong because it has a negative consequence. Because the child is as it is. As a lot of parents, and we talk with respect to parents, because everyone, when we are in this position, we do our best. But sometimes we may say, well, you don't get anything right. We could even say that to children. Or you don't know whatever. And that has a negative impact that later on, as an adult human being, the person doesn't believe in himself. But within Spiritism, if that happened in our childhood, we still as adults can take now responsibility, which is autonomy, for us to override our memories, as Joanna Janges is telling us. Learning new ways of being, how to look at us, and how to relate with us, how to relate with others. We are all loving beings in essence, and that is important that we exercise those conditions and that we believe in that. In that way, we are reprogramming our memory, as she referred previously. Anything else that you take from here? So it talks about our own shadows, isn't it? When we talk about low self-esteem, we are fed by our own limitations or shadows, and then we also project on others, because we don't see ourselves within. But Spiritism is a proposal of self-knowledge that brings the knowledge back to us for us to evaluate ourselves as valuable beings, but also imperfect, perfecting. Our shadows are values which do not correspond to the natural law. We limit ourselves when we are not limited people. Is that making sense?
What do you mean referring to another people?
In relation to us and in relation to others. The
The
person projects their own shadow.
others. What do they mean? If I undervalue myself, I automatically undervalue others?
When I deal with my low self-esteem, which I under-evaluate myself because of my low self-esteem, lack of self-value, because we all have our divine values within. But if I'm that person, I will over-evaluate others. So it's almost like I put others where, let's say, here, and I put myself here. Neither this reference is right, neither this one.
Okay.
So as more as we evolve and upgrade our belief systems according to the natural laws, I will bring this reference down through the reprogramming of my memory and this one up. We are all children of God, brothers and sisters in humanity, different levels of evolution, but not that we need to fear other people or think that other people are more than us. Under God's eyes, we are all children of love. Is that making sense? So we eradicate that there's a reference of fear or inferiority, because we are already valuable human beings. Although we know all of us, we are imperfect, but we don't focus on our imperfections in a negative way. When we can perceive ourselves and embrace us in a loving way, valuable human beings as we have been created, our shadows now, they are seen with different light. We are not, let's say, dominated by them. We are now learning how to control and overcome them. Okay? Then moving on here, Cynthia, would you like to read the next one for us, please?
When such things occur, the individual thinks of traveling, changing jobs, terminating marriage, or getting married, and depending on the case, changing social relationships. The individual clearly has an incorrect self-image, full of self-pity or self-punishment, which is transformed in defective lenses that alters one's viewpoint.
Okay. What do we learn here as we carry on developing our thinking here according in relation to mental addiction, dissatisfaction?
Because usually the first movements try to change everything outside to see if we will feel better.
So when we go back here, just for us to focus, when we refers here to the own shadows, if that is not addressed, what happens here then? The own shadows, what do they create in our internal world? Our own limitations, own shadows that we ignore or we don't want to look at them, what is that developing within us?
Because the ground isn't, because we see the ground incorrectly, we try to change the ground, if you like.
Yeah.
And we move to a different location in the hope that it might be better.
So why do we change? Why do we want to change and travel, as the spirit benefactors say? When such things occur, we think in traveling, change jobs, terminating marriage, getting married again, and then we are in a new relationship, then we have the same problems. What is that? Where is the problem? In the old marriage, in the new marriage? In me. So when we don't focus on that, we may change jobs, may change places, may change houses, but at the beginning it's okay, but suddenly everything is there again, because we didn't change the psychic address. Is that making sense? And in that way, that shows that we are dealing with this mental addiction called dissatisfaction, which is within. And we think in an immature way that traveling, go on trips here and there, that I will satisfy or feel satisfied within. For a question of moments, could be. But as soon as I come back to life again, that old dissatisfaction aspect will emerge again, up to the point that I learn to reprogram my memory.
It was the same, not way to go, there you are.
Precisely, that is quite wise. We always are with us. So although we may look new places outside, new jobs, travel in different countries, which we can do, new marriages, but if we don't change within, the old me goes with me and will manifest sooner or later there. So dissatisfaction is a mental distortion of reality, which we can update and upgrade ourselves. Would you read that for us, please?
When such things occur,
Where was it?
It's the next one.
No, sorry.
no matter where the individual moves to, trying to run away from a particular situation, one will always carry it with him. Later on, person will once again meet the same problem in the new place as soon as he accustoms with the knowledge around him.
That was precisely what we have been talking about, and you mentioned just complementing. We anticipated what Joanna James will say, and it's true. It's very, very important to reflect about that, because we here, our intention in these few moments is to reflect about psychological and emotional health. So when we are moving around because we are not happy, then it's worthwhile that we search within and find the causes of our unhappiness. Always we can change and we can improve ourselves, because we are under the law of evolution. We are all capable of molding ourselves in different ways, thinking, breaking through the old habits that sometimes we carry as immortal beings for centuries. If it's making me unhappy, let's stop, let's reflect, let's meditate about me. What is that telling about mind relationship with myself? Because when we listen to a higher self, this dissatisfaction could be seen as an inner feedback for me to learn to get to know who I am and what is the cause of my dissatisfaction. Usually it has to do with what?
My shadows.
My non-shadows, such as?
Guilty.
What?
Guilty.
Guilt. What else? I may feel guilty, if that could be conscious or unconscious. What else could be the roots of it? That if I don't deal with my guilt, I feel like days running away, and I may go travel or whatever, but I'm not dealing with that aspect. Why do I or us feel guilty? Isn't the guilt a consequence of something else? What is the guilt consequence of?
Not taking responsibility.
Because I did some, in my learning process, I did something wrong in accordance to the natural laws, and I didn't learn to take responsibility as a learner to learn from it and do it differently. Is that making sense? Yes, correct. Did we explore this one? No. The solution is not to move, as we said, yes? Professional activity and alter one's social and conjugal life. Perhaps these decisions can contribute for a difficult awakening, but the essence is courage to face, undress and really want to modify itself. What do we learn with the last phrase? But the essence is to face with courage, or courage to face it.
I think there's nothing wrong with making changes in our life every now and then, or when we want to, but the most important is for us to look at what we feel, what we think, and like we said, so previously, evaluate, look at it in a critical way, and see if there's nothing we can change within.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Courage to face it means what? To dismantle the ego. Is that making sense? Because the courage is a virtue. It comes from the essence. Yes? So we need to have courage, because the ego is there for centuries saying, no, the marriage, he was wrong. No. Stop. Reflect. Who is responsible for what I'm feeling? Me. With the courage to dismantle those rigid ways of thinking. Courage to face means the courage to, in a loving invitation, to look within us as valuable human beings, because we have difficulty to perceive our mistakes, but we all did mistakes, and we all still will do mistakes in our learning process. So the mistake that I did and feel guilty of is not the mistake in itself, it's how that impacted my emotional memory. And then I need now to choose freely to restructure that. Because it's easy for us who have been traveling in this law of evolution for centuries and centuries, which pretty much we always blame everyone for everything what happens to us. And that is part of our culture. Sometimes when we look, well, you make me feel angry, isn't it? That's quite easy that we say. But the smartest we learn now is not others, it's us. And we have, when we say also, bring the focus back, bring the responsibility back. Responsibility is internal autonomy to understand that I, as we, have different options how to engage and respond in life events. Okay? Then we carry on the next one. Would you be kind and read it for us?
The one that's there.
Yes, the attempt, yes.
The attempt will achieve success by means of reprogramming the mind, which initiated with indispensable definition of the self-image and reinforced by the disposition of not going backwards. the individual's free will shall work in the form of duty towards oneself and the reorganization of life's program.
Correct. Would you like to comment? What do we learn here now?
It's, well, if you face your own responsibilities and deprogram yourself from blaming others and face up to it, you start to make progress rather than looking for things to blame.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That you've got to look inwardly rather than outwardly for your defects, if you like.
Correct. It's looking inwardly, not only to look at our limitations or defects and identify ourselves with and intensify them, is to observe them, but also look inwardly. What are my resources on the higher potentials that I can deal with them and reintegrate those aspects in a loving way always. What else can translate this?
The importance of free will in this process, because we will need to educate it, because it's quite hard in the beginning when we attempt to do something new, to carry on with it.
Why is it hard at the beginning when we choose to engage in our reprogramming process?
Because it's a new habit and it will take time for us to get used to do something
Okay.
different.
It is the new habit, and when we have the old habit very strongly conditioned. Is that making sense? Because the old habits, the vices, the limitations, they have been conditioned by us, even if it was almost unconsciously, and they are there in terms of psychic power. And now that we are learning, we become more aware and we choose freely, we are dealing with the two forces, the self and the ego. And we choose which one? Hopefully, in order to work towards the mental liberation, the self. So we know already we are not eluded, at least the best that we can do, because our expectations come down and we do it on daily basis. If you hold it on a daily basis, today, my goal is this, and I focus on that. And even if I didn't succeed in all the aspects, on the end of today, I reevaluate as a learner, and here and there, if I didn't get right, and analyze why. Take the learning for the next day that I can do better. In that way, we are empowering ourselves. The free will, as you mentioned, is fundamental here. And then we carry on. In that moment, threatening inner giants lose strength and become pygmies, disintegrating in the succession of the renovation experience. What does Joanna James mean here? In the way that we are exercising here, as she said, the initial with indispensable definition of the self-image. Which kind of self-image do we define or choose for ourselves when we start the reprogramming process?
We are valued.
Sorry?
We are valued.
We are all valuable human beings. We are immortal beings. We are children of God. Therefore, we are essentially beings of love and goodness. That we need to feed, to impregnate our psychic with that. Because that will impact gradually. As more as we self-convince ourselves, we will feel stronger and better. And in that way, whatever was so big in terms of shadows, that becomes less powerful. Because we, through self-convincing process, we become more, let's say, we believe more in our higher potentials. Carry on here, then the next one. Cynthia, read it for us, please. Rafaela, would you like to read it?
In this phase of mental reprogramming, the person understands that everybody is peculiar and carries similar but not equal challenges as well as specific ones. And victory achieved by them in the determinate battles does not stop them, neither prevent them from new challenges.
Would you like to comment? What are we learning here?
It's everyone have your time to do, to change yourself, achieve your.
Everyone has their own time to do it. Yes, what else?
We are also all unique. We are not the same at all.
Why are we unique and not the same?
This is the way we were created. All different, all unique, and we go through all the challenges, different times, different challenges. That's why it's important not to try to push others to go with us. If we say, okay, now I'm going to change my life, reprogram my mind, change my habits, and I will never want anyone to do the same with me. But this is not the case.
No.
And we need to respect that, you know.
So how do I then engage in the reprogramming of my memory?
Always remind me I am reprogramming my mind.
According to
The natural law.
the natural laws, and other people or dear ones who may be with me may not be there yet, may not have that knowledge, may not have that understanding, and it's down to me. If I'm reprogramming my memory and developing a more healthier state of mind, I will have that internal flexibility, that internal ability to respect the other. Correct. It's down to us to change. And when we change for better, we feel better, even when we are with the dear ones who may not be following where we are. Because although we have been all created simple and ignorant by God, we bring all the seeds of the superior power within, but through the law of evolution, we evolve differently. Why is that? Because we use the free will, we train the free will in different stages. Correct? Then following, Joanna de Angelis says, slowly are born the stimuli to advance, the inner disposition to fight, temptations of accommodation, and mental lucidity, which provide perception of the advantages that come from achieved conquest. How do we learn? What do we learn now here? How is that related with mental addictions, dissatisfaction? When she says the first phrase, slowly are born the stimuli to advance. How do we understand that?
As we progress, it self-perpetuates. It's with the knowledge, it makes us more hungry. Sorry, my words are right.
Yes, so slowly, because we are all under the law of progress, all under the law of evolution, slowly, because nature doesn't change overnight, neither our psychic nature changes overnight, so slowly are born the stimuli to advance. Gradually, as more as we become aware of the natural laws, the inner powers that we bring, in a gradual way, we are stimulating ourselves to advance, to go beyond what we achieved so far, to overcome our own limitations, to understand the limitations are signals that we are hiding the greatest power within. We can do more, we can do better. The inner disposition to fight temptations of accommodations. As more as we choose, because here again, she's talking about, it's not written here, but she's stimulating us to develop our free will. The free will is the key that God, the Creator, gave us since He created us for us to choose, to learn, to think differently. And then the disposition again is that inner power that I know my weakness, I know my shadows, I don't transfer them, I don't project them, I own them, and I choose to overcome my limitations.
And it has to be a choice. We have to activate, like we always say, the free will. Because in the Spirit's book, on question 988, Kardec asked the Spirit, but there are some people, they seem to have a easy life, nothing happens, they seem to be very happy. And then the Spirit says, are they really? And then they say, like those who have been idle, they regret the time they wasted. Bear in mind that spirits cannot acquire knowledge and evolve except through activity. If they choose to rest in a worry-free existence, they do not advance. So we need to work, we need to always try to become better.
Why is that? Why do we need to work? Why there is the opposite of accommodation?
Because of one of the laws, we study the law of progress and the law of work.
Yeah.
We need to work to progress, to become better.
And why is that? Because what are we conquering as immortal beings when we choose to engage in this constant, positive, constructive activity? Is there a purpose behind that?
We acquire knowledge.
We acquire knowledge because we develop our intellectual intelligence, which is important, how to sort out issues, how to deal with this, how to do with that, how to promote myself in this situation, how in that, what else?
Spiritual knowledge.
Spiritual knowledge. We also develop our emotional intelligence because we are triggered in our shadows and our limitations through the social interaction. What else? The law of work promotes the movement internally that we learn to be more loving. The love that comes from God is movement, it's not stagnation, neither accommodation. So as more as we learn and more we evolve according to the natural laws, we will be more accommodated or more active in life. More active, freely, spontaneously, because we stimulate these superior powers within. It's not nothing someone imposing us, we choose. And as more as we give, more we receive. From whom?
Universe.
From the universe, from God. Because as more as we love ourselves, the real love, the mature love, we don't have the need to receive gratifications from others. It is a pleasure for the soul to be useful in life, to do good for everyone. And that for itself frees us from the dissatisfactions. Because dissatisfaction, as more as we study about, it gets us back to the roots of selfishness and pride. In that way, we become suffocated, intoxicated. Lack of action, inertia. And in that way, we cannot be happy at all. We are dissatisfied within because we are not moving according to the natural laws that we bring on our deeper unconscious. That making sense? That the temptations of accommodation, that she says, and mental lucidity slowly are born to stimulate to advance. And mental lucidity, what do we understand? How do we develop mental lucidity?
Drinking, imagining things.
Imagining things.
Questioning things.
Sorry?
Questioning.
Would we say that when we unite ourselves here, spontaneously study about the Spiritism, is that a way that helps us also to develop our lucidity? Of course, because as more as I study, and more self-study, more I reflect, oh my God, I didn't thought about that. Then I become aware of something, and then I can also change that. Lucidity is about study the natural laws, reflecting about the natural laws, and be willing to live them on a daily basis. But prayer could also help us. Meditation could also help us. Studies can also help us. Yes. Is sometimes even incorporating the silence in our lives, that we have moments of silence that we can listen to us. And it's not being crazy, because sometimes people think, oh, what are you talking about? I need to just be running. It's not just run. I need to also to learn. Although I'm active because I'm in the movement of goodness, which is love, and I free myself and make efforts to free myself from accommodation, but at the same time, in the balanced way, I also learn how to be with myself, that I can listen to myself on a deeper level. Clear? Yeah? Next one says then, problems and difficulties become easier to be resolved and outdated, making life more pleasant if one does not give them great importance. Obstacles that seemed insuperable are now shaped. People have another value, both in their greatness and smallness. Are we already, if we followed since the beginning, can we feel now that she's already presented the therapy for ourselves when we think and reflect about mental addiction, dissatisfactions? She's already given the therapy. So how are we translating that? Why do problems, what are problems in our lives? We are PhDs in saying, is a problem, is difficult, isn't it? So what are problems? Let's develop another level, another graduation of PhD. What are problems under the natural laws?
That we see the challenges as the problems. That's the problem.
So the problem is that we see challenges as a problem. So say it again.
Maybe they're not problems.
We don't have problems.
Well, what we see as problems sometimes aren't.
So what are problems then? We see as problems. We see what?
Our own shadows.
Would I be right in saying that what we as children, psychologically and emotionally speaking, who are evolving in our immaturity, like babies, then we see problems where the superior spirits see only experiences, opportunities to grow, to learn, to evolve. And that is what we need to learn to develop within ourselves. Each time when we face an obstacle, and we all have them, and gosh, plenty of them. We believe that? Plenty of them. It's because the universe is helping us to promote us. Each obstacle is an opportunity for us to evolve further than we achieved.
To acquire new skills.
New skills. To stimulate new potentials that are hidden on our unconscious level. Anything else? Pleasant, and it does not give them great importance. So as more as we mature, as more we develop self-satisfaction, and in which way do I do that?
Taking responsibility.
Even easy, take responsibility and cleanse your mind. Yeah? Mental addiction generates dissatisfaction. So when I take and learn to take responsibility with this internal autonomy and choose to cleanse my negativity, because that does not belong to the natural laws, I will see the experiences with different lenses. And therefore I feel lighter, because first I will notice and perceive myself as a learner of myself, facing this situation that the universe presents to potentialize myself. That's very different when we look with the negative dark lenses.
And it does become pleasant.
It becomes pleasant, especially when we focus back and look us as immortal beings, beings essentially of goodness, and granted the possibility right now to even improve ourselves further. Then we develop the inner strength, the inner courage. Whatever comes to me is because the universe trusts me that I'm capable to deal with, all of us. Because the universe never sends us lessons, which we call problems, but let's reframe it. We are in the reprogramming process already. The universe never sends lessons that we cannot handle. There is a wisdom in it. Only what comes to us, we can already handle. We may not know, but we are here to learn. So we learn from it. Anything else? Okay. So the next one, I lost myself. Is you now? Okay.
The privileged or the unlucky ones disappear. The individual understands and tolerates them as they are, and no longer by the way they present themselves.
So what is the spiritual benefactor Joana de Angelis teaching us here now?
We are where we put us, or there is no people with privileges and no people who have bad luck, but we are the consequence of our choices.
When I'm in this mental addiction system and very dissatisfied within, how do I perceive myself and others? Everything wrong happens to me. Look at my neighbor, everything is right there. You know? Sounds like the grass is green over there. It is that. Is that what she's talking about? Then as more as we mature, then the privileged or the unlucky ones disappear within, which are mental references that are incorrect. Why? Are there privileged beings in the universe? No, why not?
Because God is just.
Because we all have been created simple and ignorant, and God's justice exists. Has nothing to do with being brutal. It's love. So, there is no privilege. There is only efforts, the consequence of our own efforts that we put into. And we all have the free will. We all bring God's laws within, so we all can transcend from where we are. So there are no privileges, even when we are sometimes in family members, depending on the setting that we came back to learn from. We may say, oh my God, my brother is so intelligent and I'm so stupid. Sometimes people say that, I'm so stupid and my brother is so intelligent, we're so low. What do we learn here now? What is Joana teaching me if I have that reference?
Everything is balanced.
Everything is balanced in the universe, and even easy. If you notice that you have those references now, reprogram your memory according to the natural laws and understand that that guy or that sister, brother or sister, knows more because he exercised himself more. He put more effort into whatever he's good and not. And I can choose to start my process right now. because also we are different. So there's no copy and paste when we talk about human beings, even when we are brothers and sisters in the same family. But we are immortal beings, we are spirits. Therefore, we bring the luggage, psychically speaking, from previous existence, and we can be very different when we are two sisters, two brothers, or whatever. Does that make sense? Carry on then. Carry on for us, Sabrina, please.
Resulting from an important identification with ethical values and spiritual conquest, tolerance provides respect for the individual's own self. It also allows limit without unfriendly reactions and unjustifiable assent. Resulting from an important identification with the ethical value and spiritual conquest, tolerance provides respect to the individual own self. So if we are more tolerant, we also respect a sense of more. That's what you're saying?
I think when she says at the beginning, when she says, resulting from an important identification with ethical values and spiritual conquest or spiritual achievements, tolerance provides respect for everyone. Because tolerance comes within. It's the consequence of us progressing and evolving with the ethical values, because evolution, when we talk about the natural laws in the universe, they are based on ethical values that are good for me, good for you, good for me here, tomorrow, and everywhere where we are. They are not mutable because they come from God. So as more as we actualize ourselves in relation to those values, what happens within? Do we end up being more tolerant or more intolerant? More tolerant with ourselves and therefore with others. And in that way, we will be more satisfied or more dissatisfied? Satisfied. That is what is shown here. Flexibility. It also allows limits without unfriendly reactions and unjustifiable assent. What is she telling us here? Is it important to establish limits sometimes? Limits talks what about? In our journey of evolution, what we need to learn? How do we understand when we hear limits?
Tolerance.
Tolerance?
We accept other people's feelings.
And why do we accept other people's failures?
Because we understand that they may be at a different point of the journey as such.
So
maybe where they are is not necessarily where you are.
Correct. Would I be right in saying, but we could look in a different perspective, there are always different ways of looking, but she says limits, would we also be right in saying that it's necessary for us to develop psychic boundaries? Yes or no? Psychic boundaries. Why is that important? How do we know if someone has developed a bit more of psychic boundaries?
Is it not being easily influenced by...
Yes, by others. Is that important for us?
Yeah.
Fundamental. Why?
Because, for example, I'm so easily influenced.
Suggested, isn't it? Yes. That is very important to develop the psychic boundaries so that we are in control of what we think and feel. And because everyone thinks, ourselves and those in spirit, that we, through our free will, choose what we want to think.
So how do you do that?
Through first, you already know where you are, that you are easily suggestible, and that really is something that you want to learn to overcome, especially because in Spiritism we also talk about self-obsession and obsession. If we don't learn how to think for ourselves, others may be thinking for us. Then we are easily influenced, either by people incarnates or by spirits who are with us. How do I do that? Learn about, as we are doing here, study about the natural laws, study about ourselves as immortal beings, become aware of my limitation which you are, and now on a daily basis, train the mind and be conscious what you think and what you feel, and establish a goal for yourself. What do you want to be? Highly suggestible? No. So what would be instead?
Like, how do you say in English? Like to think for myself and not to be influenced by others.
Yes, so to develop your own identity, to have your own references and be balanced, centered. So now that you have your goal, I choose gradually to educate myself, that I develop my identity based on the natural laws. So on a daily basis, when you start, observe what you think and feel, if it corresponds with you. I am in charge of what I think, Is that good for me according to natural laws? And in that way, you are learning to relate with you in a more assertive way, in a more confident way. Because when we don't have our own identity, we usually are very insecure and very influential, very easy to be influenced. But it's developing your own belief system based on the natural laws. There is no other way that we can learn to be independent psychologically and emotionally from other people, or even, I would say, independent from our own unconscious values that we bring with us. And still, apart from that, there is no other way that we learn to be independent from the influences of the spirits. Is that making sense? Is it clear? Then we carry on. Who was it now? I think it's you. You read, yeah? Then it's your turn, please.
Dissatisfaction elapses from ignorance, unfamiliarity with the deep self and its inexhaustible possibilities. The individual erroneously assumes that everything is done and finished. That attitude pushes the individual towards fatalism that generates saturation, which in its turn will lead one to lose motivation for new conquests.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to comment? When we depart at the beginning, when she says dissatisfaction elapses from ignorance, what comes to her mind with that?
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. Full stop. Or lack of knowledge, comma.
Of the natural law.
Yes, because we have a lot of knowledge, but we don't have, or little have, or ignore, or forgot, is the knowledge of the natural laws. Because then we keep ourselves and maintain ourselves in the childish level. So our thinking or references is almost like everyone needs to please me. Is that making sense? What is coming to your mind? Or do you have something to add?
That you can be, that you might think it's done when it's not done, that we must constantly learn, progress, that we mustn't underestimate, that we've got to continue. Nothing is
Static.
Nothing is in front of us, so we have to learn it, make it work.
And learn from it. When she says here, unfamiliarity with the deep self and its infinite possibilities.
There is no such a thing as like it's the destiny, this is the fate.
That's me. I cannot change.
I cannot change. I
Yes.
was born this way, I will die this way.
Yeah.
Or the circumstances around cannot change because it was meant to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
When we learn it's not, we have so many possibilities, we just need to
Precisely. The deep self is the core of ourselves where we bring the divine faculties. That reminds us Jesus when he said, everything what I did, you can do and much more. Joanna is talking about this level of intelligence. What?
That's a good news.
That is. There is hope for all of us, isn't it? There is hope. It's true. We need to trust in us. Rafael, please.
The more the person travels that inner journey, the more one discovers oneself and consequently more possibilities one has to get to know of oneself. That conquest projects to the infinite because it goes to inner God that opens the door to understanding.
Great. Would you like to comment?
More you look to yourself, you will find God.
Okay, so it's more as a journey within. My question is, how do we do that? Learn, even if you study. Learn to listen to you, learn to be aware on a daily basis, to become aware, and then we become more aware of our internal higher selves and also the possibilities that we can change. We believe in us. When we say here, the inner God is the inner superior faculties that every human being, every spirit in evolution already brings with us. Therefore, the references are not good enough, whatever we said previously, this here will be actualized. And we become happier beings. Our mental conditions will be changed. And Joanna says, the psychology of religion begins in the analysis of each one's resources, one's faith, dedication, spiritual interest, searches and escapes, fears and conflicts. What is she telling you? What is she meaning when she says the psychology of religion? Huh? Exactly, what does she mean? I read your mind, yeah. So what is she meaning, the psychology of religion?
Meaning of religion
The meaning of religion?
is oneself. Religion is individual, it's yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a church.
Okay, so here she is referring to the psychology of religion. I think is starting to reflect where are our definitions of religion. Because for us, Spiritism is not a place or church or whatever external. It has to do with the religiosity, with the spirituality, with the love within that we bring within since our creation already. That is the way, as more as we analyze that, more we will also develop. Because faith, no one can give to another. We develop that as our reprogramming process, in our actualization process, in our evolution pathway. Correct? That is quite hopeful for us to understand. In the programming of the mind, the individual saturates the subconscious with positive energies, idealistic packets, and feasible hopes, light and love, forgiveness and goodness. Thus, all the residues of negativism, depreciations, antagonism should be eliminated. That initiates the individual in a new circle of experiences in equilibrium. How is that coming to us? What does it mean? How?
She always provides two sentences, like
Good is, higher spirits, they are like that. In one phrase, they say a lot of things. But what do we understand today with us? That is really, she's working already on the therapeutic level. The last slides that we are going through, she is teaching us how we can learn to reprogram our minds, how we can free from the mental addictions here that we reflected today regarding dissatisfaction, how we can learn to be more satisfied with them. What comes to you?
Now we need to empower the positive thinking. The negative is we already done.
We are PhDs in negativity, isn't it? Yes, so we need to educate ourselves now. And positive is very important. Are there different positive definitions of positive thought or thinking? Yes, they are. Which are? Can we see that from a materialistic perspective?
So do you mean that, for example, for material person who likes, let's say, money, they will say positive things will be they have big house, lots of cash and cars and stuff, and maybe for another person, the positive things will mean that I'm aware of myself, or
I'm a loving human being, I'm a valuable human being, I can manage to learn in any situation, I'm loved by God, I can do that as a learner. It's always building the new belief systems according to the natural laws. The natural laws that are within, they are all potentials. We are awaiting or use of free will to stimulate them. But it's thinking in that way. Even if we lose someone, that we say lose. Within Spiritism, we know that no one dies. We know that we don't lose anyone merely because no one belongs to us. And then we actualize our thinking in that way. But goes beyond the having things. Because I can have a lot of things. I can do all the trips and travel around the world because I have the money. But I may be very unhappy and very unsatisfied. And these days, we see a lot of that, so much so that we have the evidence of the suicides that go on. That is the evidence of what we're talking here. Then the next one. Is it my turn? Who is it now? Cynthia.
Even if the individual goes through external aggressions, emotional and social shocks, they will pass by the new criteria of evaluation and they will be understood. The individual will then retain what is positive and dilute the disturbing effects.
But we learn here now, in all.
It's what I asked you earlier about if we desire peace. how even if the circumstances outside is not peaceful, we will have this tranquility within, because we will have a reference point, a very strong reference point, which is based on the, like we said, the natural laws, and something that is positive. So it doesn't matter if someone comes with the
Screaming at us.
screaming the worst behavior ever, we will be calm and we'll know how to deal with the situation. We'll have our boundary, like I said before.
Yes, we have our psychic boundaries, as I mentioned previously. And do we have a model to help us to model ourselves?
Which is
Jesus. When he was here, he went through turmoils, but he always maintained his tranquility, because his mind was connected with the humanity or with God. So he saw the experiences from above, and that is the enlightened spirits are asking us to see also. So if someone is hurting us, which we may think, because in reality no one can hurt us, because when we protect ourselves psychically in doing good, in feeling good, and thinking in goodness, we are protecting ourselves. But we cannot avoid it, or it comes and screams at us. But we will not feel affected, because we are independent of that. When we reach this level, we will not be affected by this level. But if we are in the same level, we may be affected. Temporarily. That is good. A mind that is not used to those commitments will express lapses and revive fixations. The latter are natural phenomena of survival of usual ideas. If the mind is not supplied by the same vibration of inferior thoughts, then it will get unused to them, and it will imprint new received orders, expanding the area of understanding. Translating what we understand here in our learning process. As more as we induce ourselves with constructive, positive belief systems, what will end up happening?
Start to get a higher vibration.
To get a higher vibration, mentally and emotionally, because our states of thinking and feeling is translating in energy fields. As more as we freely choose, and we are the only one who can think for ourselves, unless we allow other spirits to think for us. But when we take charge, we are the higher being who chooses what to think. We are feeding us in a constructive way. Therefore, we are actualizing this dissatisfaction aspect, and our vibration becomes lighter and more loving and more subtle. And we feel that on the physical body, don't we? How do we feel? Lighter, happier, more empowered. Would you carry on? I don't know, it's your turn, please.
In this programming of the mental field, there are many activities to perform. And dissatisfaction, twin sister of boredom, will not find place to remain and will then disappear. The phenomenon of one's transformation happens only through the individual's own effort, who feels saturated, dissatisfied with life. Wow! So she's saying that dissatisfaction is a twin sister of boredom. Oh yes, that's what they say. You have too much time to think, yes? And then you're overthinking things, and then you have some thinking crazy thoughts. So if you like performing the mental activities, then this boredom and this fluctuation could disappear.
I think what she's saying, the first phrase when she says, in this programming, what we should said in the previous one, to actualize and induce us in a constructive way, yes. In this programming of mental field, there are many activities to perform. And this satisfaction, twin sister of boredom, will not find place to remain, it and will disappear. So as more as we educate ourselves in a constructive, realistic, positive way of thinking according to what life is under the natural laws, as learners as we are, and still do mistakes here and there as we learn, more we will potentialize our psychic in a constructive way. And dissatisfaction and boredom will disappear, will dissolve gradually. Cynthia, where are you?
Yeah, I agree with it.
You agree? Do we now understand where boredom comes from? I'm so bored. People say, so bored. How was your weekend? So bored. So what are we learning? Or even us say, oh, what is that telling about us now?
Take action. We need to act.
Take actions. So it's almost like we are bored of ourselves.
Children often don't say this. When I was young, I often say that. I remember my dad said that intelligent people are never bored.
I think he studied with Anjuana James already.
But my kids often do say that.
Hello, kids.
You often say you're bored.
Yes. So we need to learn. Learn what? To find out what are we bored, because it has to do how we are relating with us, and for sure is outside the natural laws. There is some things that we need to learn which we haven't learned. So it's almost like we are bored with the old system, the old way of being. And then just challenge you, what is it? How can I be useful? How can I change here in this moment? What can I do differently? That I become more active, that I reprogram my mind, that I reprogram my behaviors.
Study more.
You study more, because study stimulates our new way of thinking. Each time when we study more, we stimulate our ways of articulating new belief systems. We have new connections, new insights, which also impact our emotional dimension. We have still so much to learn when we are bored, because we are stuck in our evolution. Is that making sense? So as we are coming to the end today, what do we take from these reflections about mental addictions? Today focus on dissatisfaction. What I'm taking with me from here.
Be more positive.
Be more positive,
More critical
but more critical of self,
of myself.
of self, yeah?
Don't idealize others, and it's like a big hope that as you're learning, you will progress no matter what.
It's a great hope when we study within the superior spirits, in this case is the words of Joana de Angelis, in relation to mental addiction, dissatisfaction, because in these days on earth it is a huge issue. There are a lot of people who are dissatisfied, and as I say, the extreme of that reaches the suicide. And it's a great hope for us to be in contact with this knowledge and learn from it and incorporate ourselves and potentialize ourselves, reprogram our minds as immortal beings, because we all have the power to do that. And in that way, we are promoting more inner satisfaction for this existence, and as we are ourselves in the next existence as well, that will benefit us as well. We have a brighter outlook. We don't see so negative, so heavy. We sleep better. We have a better quality of life, wherever we are. Nothing to do with what we have. It has in terms of belongings. It has to do what we have in terms of values that we ingrained ourselves with. We all are beings who are in the actualization process. Let's take advantage in these moments that we are on earth, school earth, for us to promote ourselves, be more happier, be more realistic in relation to life, but on daily basis induce us consciously that we are already valuable human beings. And in that way, we believe in this actualization process. So we're coming, what?
First step maybe would be the gratitude.
Gratitude would be a good example, because here in satisfaction, because we are very selfish, and therefore gratitude we haven't heard about. Be more grateful in life for everything that we have, even our body, our eyes that we can see, our legs that we can walk, our hands that we can help the good for everyone. They're grateful for nature, grateful for the air that we breathe, for the sun, for the clouds, even the rain, even the dark weather in London. It's a pleasure to be here. So we are grateful for God where He placed us, because His wisdom knows what is good for us. Well done. So we're coming to the end today, and we ended with our final reflections. Giving thanks to God for this unique and special moment in our existences. As brothers and sisters in humanity, as we all are. Ourselves and all of those in the spirit who are with us. As we are all learners of ourselves. Being inspired by the Spiritism, which is the teachings of Jesus, which brings the word of God. Helping us as loving beings as we already are, to promote more love within, more peace within, be more satisfied with our existences, and change what we can, accept what we cannot. And in that way, in daily existences choose to promote us in being better today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. Blessed by the light and love from Jesus, from the enlightened spirits, may we feel strong and renovated and carry on our days and hours more motivated, feeling good about us, and investing in every moment to promote us psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, according to the greatest law in the universe, which is the love that comes from God. So be it. Much peace to all, and hope to see you next week again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.